Okay, this video is for the SolidWorks portion, the detailed SolidWorks creation of my 3-switch button housing. So this is, the whole project is in another video, and you should be able to get that in the description, the link in the description. In this one, we're going to create a housing for this, and it's everything that I do to create it in SolidWorks. So if you want to follow along and you want to learn SolidWorks a little bit, it's a good way to learn, watch somebody else design stuff, and I'll try to talk my way through it and explain it as I go. So let's jump in and get started. So we'll start out by starting an assembly. New assembly. And I'm going to immediately go down here in the bottom right and change it to millimeters. And then go to save to this PC. And I'm going to call it 3 button switch. Whoops. Dang. Can't type today. All right. Save it. Now we have an assembly, and I like to work in assemblies and then create virtual components inside those assemblies. And then you can just, you only have one file out there, and it's an easy way to develop so you don't end up with all these extra files. If the design doesn't go forward, you don't end up with all these extra files out there hanging around. So, all right, we have that. We're going to go insert and component, new part, and just click out here. I don't really worry about where I click because I'm going to immediately go open it up and start in that thing. So by doing that, this part is not existing on the hard drive at all. This is actually part of the assembly, and you can see that by the little caret and 3 button switch at the end of it. So what I'm going to do, and I like to work this way, I could measure this thing out and figure out what the part I'm making is going to be, but I like to make the part I'm putting in it, or I'm holding, or that I'm interacting with, and just make a representation of that, so then I can design around that. Otherwise, I tend to make some mistakes, so it's easier to do that. And I'm going to design this really quick because I just measure it here with my calipers and put it in there. So let's start off by front plane, make a center rectangle, and I already see a mistake. I am in inch pound seconds here. I need to fix that in my templates, but anyway, go back to edit that sketch, and now I'm going to dimension that, and it is 80, and the height is, I'm just using my calipers here, and it's 20. Okay, so that's the main circuit board size, and we'll make it, go ahead and extrude it, and I'll do it, mid-plane. Do almost everything mid-plane unless I have a good reason not to, because that gives you an extra plane there in the center. Anytime I don't do that, I always end up going back and creating that plane, so you might as well make it 1.6. All right, there we go. I'm going to make this part. I'm going to start off with this whole thing being green. Doesn't really matter, but I like to have a little bit of visual representation. I'm going to save it. And now I'm going to put the buttons on there. So start on this face, and we're going to, and this is just a representation. I'm not going to try to make it perfect. But those buttons are square, 11.8 square. So if you right click and then drag, you can get that dimension really quickly. And then go 11.8 this way too. There we go. So now I have that I can move around. I do know it is horizontally, or actually vertically on center, so I can go here and say it's horizontal to that. So that way it can't move up and down. Now I can just move. The only thing I have left is back and forth. If you look down here, you can still see it's underdefined, but it's obvious by all this blue. It'll all be black here in a second. So this isn't in the center, so let's see where it is. While looking at this, I created this so I know it is to one side. And I'm going to use this side, the short side, as my measure from. And 7.3. So, whoops, get to dimensions again. 7.3. There we go. That's good. So now fully defined. So I'm going to go ahead and features, extrude. Okay. Go back to blind because I just want to go straight forward. And let's see how much this is sticking up. So I'm just going to do how much it's sticking up, not, it's 5 millimeters. Not actually how thick that button is, because it does stick up more than the thickness because it's off the board. Alright, so let's go ahead and make this part gray. No, did the wrong part. This, go there, and I just want to do this feature. There we go. Gray, okay. And now in the middle of that, we're going to have the button portion. So I'm going to do that. And we will select midpoint here and make that vertical. So one thing, if you move too fast, you won't get some of these helpful things. So if you right click and then select midpoint and then control, select the center, it will pop up this little helpful pop-up box. And now I can say make it horizontal to that. And now I'm going to drag upward and get the dimension. And we'll make it, I think it's around 6 millimeters. No, 6.8. There we go. Now we will extrude that. And this actual button is 5.8. So we'll just say 6. And we're going to give it a little bit of draft out inward. So there we go. And now that portion, I'm just going to make it black-ish. Okay, there's the button. Now from the back side of it, we're going to have the plug. So the plug is actually, oh, I didn't want to do that. Sometimes that does not help because now it flipped it around. I got to flip this around in my hand and we'll go in from the other side. So let's go ahead and do a regular rectangle, and I'm going to make it 7.5 and 5.9. So 7.5, 5.9. Come off this side, and that is going to be 10.8. And then, oh yeah, it's not centered vertically either. So Let's go off the top here. And we'll call it 6.7. There we go. So there's that, fully defined. Features, extrude it, and we're going to make it 7.6. There we go. And make this close to white. And does all this matter? Not really, but it's nicer to look at. Okay. And now we want to do a linear pattern. Using that. And it's 26 spacing. And we'll do 3 of them. And we want that, that, and that. Whoops. We want that, that, and that. There we go. So that will be our things. All right, that's the board. There's some holes and some mounting holes and all that we left out, but we're not going to use any of those. So this is really all we need here. Oh, I do want to go back and put radiuses on the corner of these buttons because that can affect us here. So let's go. Let's just go ahead and roll back. No, we're not going to roll back. We're just going to go ahead and, yeah, we are. I'll make up my mind. There we go. Now let's go fillet and select that. And if you sit here for a second, it will give you an opportunity to select all the corners. It kind of guesses what you wanted to do there. I'm going to make it 1 millimeter. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And I really wanted that to be gray too. So let's go ahead and change that fillet to gray. There we go. All right. Now we'll go back to the linear pattern and add that fillet in there. And we're good to go. All right. Control S to save. And we'll close that out. And now we have that board, and it's pretty much right in the center here because I just stepped out immediately and it's locked there too. So we can design around that and go from there. Yeah. First things first, I want to do a whole housing portion. I kind of know what I want there. This is 80 by 20, so I want to go a little bit bigger than all that and then design around that. So actually, yeah, let's go ahead and just insert component, new part. I'm gonna do the same thing, just click out in space, and I'm going to start off by just opening that thing right up. And we're going to get this part started, and then we'll go back to the assembly and work from there. So we're going to stretch that out there. I'm going to have to go down here and change this back to millimeters. One of these days I'll fix that where I don't have that problem anymore. So right drag upward, and we will make this 100 and make this 35. I don't know, just kind of guessing. And then we will go ahead and extrude this mid-plane. And we're going to make it, I don't know, 20. So that's a start. I'm going to save that and return back to the sketch. All right, there we go. So now I'm going to start working on this thing. So one thing I want to do is, I think I'll build it right from there. Like the back stuck out fine. Let me go ahead and do a transparent. That's not going to work out too well though, because no, I'm not going to build around it that way. I'm going to build around it a little bit differently because it's not going to be all centered in there. So we want to make that float, and now we can move it around wherever. So we're going to set it how we want it. I'm going to change the transparency back and go the top plane. It's going to be on this top plane. The right plane is going to be on that right plane. Should be fine. And now I can go back and forth a little bit. So I want it to stick out just a little bit. So I'm going to make that face of that go a distance and make it maybe 2 millimeters. I like that. Okay. And now we'll go to the back of it and we'll make a hole for it to sit in. I want to go sketch, and I'm going to make that transparent, and we're going to select this board and do a offset. And now we'll make that 0.5 millimeter maybe. Yep, looks pretty good. So I'll slide right in there. And now I'm going to send it all the way to the face of this board. So we'll make a, oops, I do this so often. I am in the sketch. It even warned me down here. You guys probably saw it pop up, but I did not. So I'm sketching in the assembly, so I can't affect this part. So let's get rid of that. Delete it. Now we need to go in here and actually edit the part. And then it really messes with you on transparency. There we go. So now we're editing this block. I want to select the face of this. So I'm going to have to do a select other right here. Select that. Do the offset again. Oh, I'm sorry. Select that. I'm getting ahead of myself. I got to start a sketch, and now this sketch is part of the part. And if I'm moving kind of fast, you can always back it up. Some people say I'm moving too slow, so I'm trying to keep a good pace here. Let me know in the comments if you think it's too fast or too slow. All right, so now we're in this. Now I'll do the select other, select that, and do a offset. It remembered that 0.5, and I'll just hit OK. There we go. Now we're good. Now I can go features, whoops, extrude cut. And then go up to, whoops, up to surface. And select this object here. And it's probably going to give me a hard time here. There we go, select other. That did not work. Up to surface. Not that. Select other. That. There we go. Okay. Now we have a nice cavity in here that goes all the way to the surface of that. I'm going to go the other direction, and with these buttonholes. So I'm going to select this front piece, and then I'm going to select, I think I can do all three of these at once, and do a offset, and I cannot. So just select one of these and hit offset, 0.5 millimeter again, do this one again, offset, just hit enter, that one, offset, enter. There we go. Now features, extrude cut, and we're going to go through all. You don't have to worry about the board, it's a different part. We're actually working inside this block here right now. So we're just going to go extrude through all, hit OK. Alright, we're getting there now. So we still have these things that are in being inside the material of this part because we didn't extrude for them. So let's go ahead and go to here, and we will select this face and do a sketch on it. And now we want to do the same thing with this button face. And it's kind of easier to grab it through a hole sometimes. And grab it. Do offset entities. And say, do the 0.5 millimeter again. I'm going to grab this one. Offset entities. Enter. And then this one, offset entities, enter. And now I'll extrude that up to the face of the button. So extrude cut, features, extrude cut. And now I want to go up to surface again. Select other. Actually, I might escape out of that. I'm going to grab it through the hole again. Sometimes that select other can be hard. That's the surface we want to use. There we go. All right. So let's make that not transparent again and open this thing up. See where we've got to. So now we have a little cavity there. And I'll take this time to, let me save it first, to say that I'm designing this for 3D printing. I would never design it this way for injection molding because you need to keep constant wall thicknesses and all that. I might start it this way, but the thing about design is you got to design for your final method. So I'm designing for 3D printing, so I'm not worried about wall thicknesses. It'll fill it with infill. So, I mean, I will worry about wall thicknesses, but I'll choose that when I do the print. But right now I'm just making a big part and assume it's going to be filled with infill, and then we'll go from there. So anyway, that's the main part of it here. And now I want to add a angle face and angle going backward. Well, actually, I need to thin it up because these don't stick out. So let's go and make this change transparency again. There we go. Okay. So I want to make it where this is about the same as that. So I need, let's take 4 millimeters, 3.5 millimeters off of it. So we'll just double click on this dimension here and say minus 3.5, hit enter, and then You notice nothing happened yet. I got to refresh it, so Control B, and there we go. Now those are barely sticking out the back there. And that'll be our plug, so actually I want them to stick out a little bit more than that. So let's go a little bit more. Let's go. You can actually do it that way too. If you just single click on it, you can still put math in here too. So let's make it minus another millimeter. And that will auto update. I'm gonna control 1 through 7 actually does different views. So that's the view. There's the button sticking out and there's the plug. I like that. So we're going to leave it like that. Now, let's go ahead and put our, I'm going to put an angle on it to give it more I think I do. All right, so let's put some mounting wings on this thing. Let's go ahead and open it up and change the transparency. Oops. There we go. Transparency gets a little weird when you're working in context and stuff. So anyway, I have a screw here that I'm going to use. It has a 7.5 head on it. Is the diameter, so we need to keep that in mind. And then the shank is, I basically need a 4 millimeter hole for it to go through. Did I say 7.5? Gee. Yep. Okay. Write that down. 7.5 and 4. Okay. But basically I want to put a sketch on here. I believe this is the top, right? Yep. And I'm going to create a, don't want to center rectangle, just a regular rectangle. I don't want to start it there. I want to start it on this corner, so it'll be stuck there. All right, I'm going to make this collinear with that, which is that little button there. And give it a dimension of, say, 20. It's not so bad. I'm going to make it extrude down, blind the other direction, and we'll make it 5. Looks pretty good. I'm going to look at 5 millimeters. Sometimes to get things in your head, you might just set a caliper and say, okay, that's how thick that's going to be. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And now if I kind of want to give this some shape, so I want to put a angle on this. So let's go ahead and do that too. So I'm going to select the face of this, sketch, draw a line between there and there, and then take that line and convert to entities. Now I have my little fully defined sketch, and I'll just features, extrude it. I don't know if 5 is going to be too much. Yeah, probably. Let's go ahead and make that a little bit less. 4, 3. It's really just a hide this mounting screw and all that, and give it a little different look. Yeah. I think it's going to be fine. Let's see if our hole fit in here. So I'm going to put the hole up here, sketch, draw the circle, and we decided I'm going to do a 7mm. Actually, I'm going to do it from the bottom. That'll give me a lot better look at things. So I'm going to do a sketch from here. There we go. Now I can do that dimension that at 7.5, right? Yeah. Well, I got plenty of room. I'm going to go ahead and make that construction because I'm not going to extrude that actually. That's just the head of the screw. And now dimension this at 4mm. Got plenty of room here. I could probably go back to a thicker faceplate and put that about right there. Put it in the middle of this. Select midpoint and there. Make it horizontal. And then here, select midpoint there and vertical. Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah. And now I'm going to change the thickness of this back to, let's see if 5 looks like. Plenty of room there. Okay, we're going to use that right there as the hole. So let me go ahead and select this sketch and say features, extruded cut through all. There we go. All right, so that's this side. Now for the other side, we will just go mirror about the right plane and start selecting these parts. I think it's, whoops, features to mirror. We want that, we want that, and we want that. Enter. Nope, didn't like it. There we go. All right. Now we have a decent looking little faceplate that'll mount up under my counter. So it's going to mount up under a lip that's to this surface. The screws will mount up there, and all you'll see is this first the face of it with the button sticking out. So that's how it's going to work. Now let me give us some fillets. I think I'm going to add one here and there. And that's not going to work, huh? Doesn't like that. Well, maybe I won't put a fillet there after all. Huh. Ah, there we go. I don't know why. It didn't like that to begin with. Let's go 10mm maybe. Yeah, I think that's good. Do another one over here. Enter. There we go. I like the look of that. Control S to save it. Close this down. Now we're back in assembly. We're still editing this part though. Let's get out of that. And turn this back to not transparent. That's pretty good right there. Now I want to add some a place for ears here and a back plate. So Well, let's start with the back plate. Yeah. So the back plate will be, let's go ahead and save this whole thing, Control S, and now insert component, new part, and just select. Actually not gonna open this one up. I'm gonna do this one in place because I know that the surface is going to be, there's a little bit of stuff sticking up off there, the solder and stuff, so I need to clear away for that. I'll probably come back and clear away for that. Yeah. So I'm going to use this is my sketch surface. So I'm going to go in to edit this part, select that and say sketch, and now do it the same size as this. So I'm just going to select that and hit convert entity. So that'll just give me a square there. Now I have that 0.5 millimeter clearance there, and I think that'll be pretty good. And now I'll just extrude that all the way out to be flush here. So features, extrude all the way up to the surface here, enter. All right, big chunk in there now. Now let's clear out for our plugs. We will select there and say sketch. Select that and hit offset 0.5. Looks good. Select that, offset, enter. Select that, offset, enter. Now we'll extrude that through. I hope this is helpful. Sometimes I feel like I'm just flying right along here, but helps to watch people do stuff. Extrude through all. Extrude cut through all. Now I have a clear out for all of my buttons. I mean all of my plugs. Okay. Now I want to put little ears out here on this, and then I will I actually want to do it on this part though. So let's exit out of that, select this and say edit part. And I'm going to make a sketch on that. So I'm going to create a 3-point arc. Maybe go here, here, and there. Okay, so what do we have here? It made a perfect half circle, which is what I wanted. And I want this to be stuck to the middle of this. So let me show you how to do this here. If I drag this and I hover over the line a little bit, see that little yellow thing? That's the midpoint. Now if I drop it on the midpoint, now it's stuck to that midpoint. Now the only thing I can do is make it bigger. So if I dimension it, so drag right, drag upward. No, that didn't work. There we go. And I'd say 7 millimeters looks fine as a radius. Now let's close it off. Right there. All right. Features, extrude cut. And how far down do I want to go? It has a lot to do with the screw I'm going to use. So right now, I have some little screws here, but man, they're awful little. I think I'm going to go Sometimes you can drag this thing around. If you make it blind, you can drag this around and get a good idea, and then make it more solid. Like there, this is going to give you millimeter increments. So there's 2 millimeters, maybe 4 millimeters. Looks pretty good. Decent size little tab for the ear. Do that. That's good. Now we want to mirror that, so I'm going to pre-select here. So I'm going to select that, and then this piece that I just made, and then go to Features, Mirror, and all I have to do is hit Enter. I pre-select a lot. It makes a lot of commands easier and the selection easier. Okay, so now let's put those ears onto this part. So to do that, let's exit that part. Right click on that and hit Edit Part. So now we're editing this. I want to, let's just go to here. Yeah, we'll just go through all. This will work really well. So I'm going to start a sketch on that plane and offset those entities. I'm going to reverse it so it's going inside. Looks pretty good. And delete this entity because I don't need that. And now I will draw this. So we're going to go horizontal over to there, all the way down to there, and we're going to click there and go over to this point. And I don't think I grabbed it. Oh, there we go. I did, but it's just not tangent. Doesn't like that. That's weird. Don't know why that can't be tangent. That's what you get into sometimes. This one worked fine. Oh, no it didn't. Guess it can't get there. Yeah. Oh, it is. I'm on the wrong part here. That's why. Gee. This line, I chose the wrong line. All right, let me back up here. There we go. Now, there over to this line, down to, let me show you how you infer here. If I go over and hover over this and then drag over, it'll draw a dotted line and infer that for me. There we go. Now I should be able to make that tangent. And what I'm doing here is control selecting. So I select that, control, select that. That gives me two things. And then I can make a tangent. All right, now I'm fully defined here. It's a good ear. Mounting tab, whatever you want to call it. Features, extrude. And we will go up to surface, and this is our surface. We could go through all two, I believe. Same thing. There we go. That's pretty good. Mirror it about that plane. And mirror. Enter. There we go. Alrighty, now I'm going to put our little screw hole in there. Okay, I've got some screws here that are I have a head thickness of 1.1 and the diameter is 3. So first off, let's put the hole for the head, which is going to sink down in there a little ways, but we'll adjust it as we go. We want the hole for the head to be 6 millimeters diameter. So let's start there. Am I on the right part? Yep. So I'm going to make a sketch there, do a 6 millimeter circle, and then we'll move it around like we did before. So right click and drag upward, 6. Whoops. Am I in inches? How am I in inches? Is that part in inches? I'll tell you what, this whole getting stuck in inches thing is confusing to me. I guess that's an inch pound second. Let's go ahead and change that over. It didn't hurt anything. Sketch. Start over, 6 millimeters. So that's the head clearance right there. So I'm going to put that, of course, on center here. Let's go. Actually, I'm going to go from that origin over to there. Okay, so now I can just move it back and forth. I'll put it out toward the end there a little bit, leave a little bit of meat. So I'm going to, oops, dimension it from there over to here, maybe. Dimension it from there over to there, and we'll make it 2.6. That looks good. See how much meat we catch here though. I have to make that whole tab a little bit bigger, we'll see. So, my other hole for this is going to be the same screws I used in my last project, but I don't remember any of the dimensions, so I'm going to make this thing 2 millimeters for the, well, that's the actual pilot hole. Can't hold on to these things. Okay. Maybe make it 3 millimeters clearance hole. So let's put that in there so we can see what we're dealing with. Okay. Well, that'll be fine actually. Okay, so let's shoot that down through there. Don't really want this in there yet, but I just wanted to see it. Now we're going to go features, extrude cut, and we'll take this thing down to, let's just start with, was I 4 millimeters there, so we'll make this 2 millimeters. And then we're going to put another sketch here. And we'll do our 3 millimeter hole. This is the clearance for the body. Features, extrude cut through all. That'll take us the rest of the way. Okay. So let's open this up and just look at it, see what we got, see if it looks viable. Yep. Looks viable to me. So let's go ahead and, while we're in here, change this mirror around. Take it all the way down there. And add that and that to it. There we go. Looks good to me. I think it's about done. Save. Now really all I have left to do is add this little pilot hole in here and we're about done. So I want to go, let's get out of this part, edit this part. We're going to make a sketch on this plane and we're going to draw a circle in the center of this and make it, let's see how big we want to make it. 2 millimeters, I guess. Actually, going to go a little bit. Yeah. Let's make it 1.9. There we go. And now we'll just make this blind so it has some meat to bite into. Features, cut extrude. Definitely not that much. Maybe make it 3 millimeters deep. Okay. I think that's fine. I'm going to measure that distance. Let's show you how to measure. If we click two surfaces, we can go to evaluate and then measure. Why don't I see it? Measure. Gee, it's right there in front of me. 2 millimeters. I think that's pretty good. I think that'll work. Alright, let's mirror that hole. So let's go ahead and go into this part so we can see what we're doing. Yeah, just going to add it to that mirror like I did on the other one. Alright, I think we have all of our parts. A nice little mountable 3-button assembly. Okay, one other thing I wanted to do before I finish this thing up is there's some soldered parts. I mentioned this at the beginning, but I almost forgot. There's some soldered parts at the bottom here where the switch or the plug connects to the button that I wanted to clear out for. So just below each switch, I just want to add a clearance groove. So I want to edit this part and I want to, I think, start on this end. I guess it doesn't matter, but I do want to try to do it in this assembly because I know which orientation I'm in. So one thing you can do is you can hover over something and hit tab and it'll go away. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that too. Nope. Control Z to undo. It's that part. Nope, it's not going to let me. That's really weird. Anyway, at least that gets me there. Sort of. I can, you know what? I'm just gonna get out of this. Hide this. Edit this again. Okay, now I know where I'm at. So I want to start a sketch on here, and just directly below here I'm going to add a rectangle. That's going to go all the way to the bottom, and then this will be collinear with that, and then extrude cut and go down. Well, I guess I can measure it. The biggest blob I have here looks like it's, actually they go outside of the thing a little bit too. I might need to extend that, but 1.4. So let's make this 1.5. How's that? So that's what I end up with, but I'm going to edit that and whoops. Gonna edit that sketch and change this a little bit. Actually, just do that whole thing over. It's easier to redraw it than try to fix it. I'm going to draw a rectangle here, connect it to the bottom. This time go collinear here and take the midpoint of that and select it to the, actually, let's do it this way. Undo the collinear. There we go. Take the midpoint of that and select it to the midpoint of this other. Select midpoint, control, select midpoint. It's not gonna let me do that, is it? Well, there's another way to skin that. Put a point there. Now I can easily select that. So select midpoint to that and say make vertical. Make it coincident actually. I'm done. Alright, now all this can do is get wider. So I'll just give it a dimension. Let's give it a width dimension. And make it 10.5. Whoops. There we go. Now I have my low clearance. That will work well. So I need one underneath each one of them. So I know that that is at 26 millimeters. So I'll just select that as my direction. Change that to 26. Make that 3. And then select this part right here. Enter. And it didn't like it. Selected features could not be patterned using geometry pattern now. It's held onto that for a while. Okay, there we go. Now let's show that and show that. And now we're really done this time. And I will show you also the way I need to rename these parts. I did that when I wasn't recording. So the way you do that is you just slowly like select it and then you click again and it'll put you into the rename. I think you can just right click on it and say rename. Rename part does the same thing. And then if I want to open this now, I can open it and say File, Export As, and I will export it as body at that right there, and as an STL, that way I can 3D print it. So that one's done. And now I'll go around here, open that one, which is called cover now, and I will file, export, and export. There we go. So now both of those are out there on the drive, and I can 3D print them, and we'll see how they come out, and we'll make any tweaks if we have to. If you like this content, if you'd like to see more of it, let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe. I have a lot of other videos that are just smaller overviews of projects. There's actually one for this project that doesn't go into all the details of SolidWorks. So check that out. You can check me out at my website, dandesigns3d.com, if you want to get this model or any of the models that I do.